I have just played for you Rachmaninoff's Prelude in G-flat major, Opus 23, number 10. This is the final closing prelude, the 10th prelude, from his earlier cycle of preludes written between 1901 and 1903. This is one of the few slower pieces, and it's technically one of the easier pieces, until, that is, we get to the end of the piece where we have typical Rachmaninoff challenging passages of gorgeous beauty. The piece begins with the left-hand melody on the third beat, the upbeat, and it is followed immediately by a falling fifth. The right hand embellishes this melodic line with a series of pulsing chords that sets the mood and the tempo of the piece. For the entire piece, what we hear is this third beat and the falling interval, and that is the identifying characteristic feature of this piece. As is the case with all of these preludes, Rachmaninoff saves some extraordinary things for the end in the coda of this piece. And here we have gorgeous, widely spaced rolled chords in the right hand, and the left hand comes up with a new rhythmic element in triplets, a gorgeous melody, and the two cover the entire span of the keyboard. But it's a third part, what I call the descant, which is a separate part that we hear coming from very, very high on the piano. And it has its own series of falling intervals on the third beat. And it's a sequence. And all three of these parts join together, slowly coming down and lower and softer, and closing quietly and tranquilly. For me, the piece ends as it began, as a prayer. So let's take a look at this piece now in G-flat major. G-flat major is a wonderful key to play for pianists because of all the black keys. We have 6 flats. Every key is flatted except for the F. And here's the tonality. G flat being our tonic and D flat being our dominant. And it's very interesting that what we hear in both of the opening parts, we hear the dominant pitch of D flat. Our left hand begins on the dominant D flat, and I said it was a falling fifth. It begins the third beat like this. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3. And that's the close of the first 4 measures, ending on the dominant tonality. And then it repeats another 4 measures like it started, the falling fifth. But a departure here up to the F. That sounds very simple and sparse. And when we add now this right-hand series of chords, which begins the piece as a 2-measure introduction. This is how the piece begins before that melody comes in. And repeats. The bottom notes have the moving melody, starting on the dominant D flat and ending on the tonic G flat. Above it we have these pitches. holding it, very, very still and placid. And Rachmaninoff has the dashes on the lower melodic line because that needs to be brought out. It also has a little crescendo, 1, 2, 3, and a diminuendo. So it's got a swell on the third beat. Then when we put the hands together, 1, 2, 3, it's asking a question. Falling third that time. And phrase closes. And now we start the second 4-measure phrase. A little crescendo. Material. I'll play these right-hand chords alone because there's a lot of interest and importance in these small changes from chord to chord, which we need to become familiar with. They all have meaning. Now, do you see my touch here? I'm going to talk immediately about the tone we want to produce here. And I'm going to be using the pulsing chords. I'm pulsing with my arms. Every chord is pulsed. And if this is the keyboard, I'm pushing in like this. And that gives me a soft, gliding stroke on every key so that the tone is beautiful and I have the control I want. And I'm pressing with the flat thumb. So there's a lot to this technically. It looks easy, it plays easy, but if you're going to make a beautiful tone, there's a lot to it. That's the first thing when you start a piece. Don't just say, oh, I'm going to learn the notes and I'll put the expression in later. Put the expression in immediately. So here we have the pulsing. Going to the so beautiful. Bring that out, hear it. Those ascending thirds in there. And over, that's the close of the first 4-measure phrase. Repetition. Tie. You want to listen for and to bring out. Now, when I play this and I hear these gentle ascending thirds and descending thirds buried within the pulsing chords, it touches me. It changes the feelings I have inside of my body. And it is like a communion. It is a reverence. And then we put that all together with a heartfelt melody in the left hand. And this also, I use my arms. A little phrase. And then he has dashes on these. And again, I stroke in with the left hand. Thumb. Repetition. Up to F. If we go on now, we have was a sequence that repeated the second four measures exactly a step lower than the first four measures. So far now we know the piece is 2 measures of intro, 4 measures, 4 measures, 4 measures, 4 measures. And that ends our whole first section. Going on now to this second system, measure 11, I'm going to play. The right hand has a series of pulsing chords still, but it now has a second voice that's imitating the melody that we just heard in the tenor. That voice sounds like this in measure 11 on the third beat. And a down a step because it's a sequence. Doesn't that sound so sad there? That's an E double flat. And if I play those parts together with the upbeat, just the single note of the tenor and the single note of the soprano, because we still have 2 more parts, but I want you to hear the imitation. With the left hand starting on the third beat, and on this third beat, the soprano answers. And they have parallel sixths. And the repetition, down a step, soprano answers. As written now, I'm going to play the other parts. So we hear all 4 parts, the pulsing chords, that's my favorite part of the passage there. We have this ninth in the left hand. And in the right hand we have a suspension. And if we put those together, we have this clashing minor second in the left hand thumb on the B flat and the right hand thumb on the C flat. You want to relish that. That has to activate something very deep inside of you. So if we come from the, we know this is coming, the minor second. Right here. Repetition now. Minor. Went from major to minor. Now in this we get a major second. A flat and B flat. That's so beautiful. So hear the difference. And then the close. Beautiful moment in the piece. I think this is a good time to show you what I'm looking at. And this is a brand new engraving that I just made with my Sally Christian Piano Edition. And those of you that have used my charts before know that I have a brand new layout on the 11-inch by 17-inch wide format. And this is the first page of 2 for this piece. And I take all the notes from public domain music and re-engrave them in this order. So you can see the 2 measures of intro, and then the first 4-measure phrase, the second 4-measure phrase, the next system that we just finished, another 4 measures with this gorgeous 9th minor second and suspension, the repetition down a step for the last 4 measures, another 9th major second and suspension. Then we go on to our development section, which we will do in just a minute. But I wanted to show you that your main file, which is what this is on the horizontal format, is where you learn all your notes. And you could see everything's got lots of open space between System 1, System 2, System 3 and 4. This is all development section here. And believe it or not, I have a length of 12 measures for this next system that we're going to soon get into. That's just not possible in any other format other than to have this much width and to see that that is all one unit. Your 2 pages for your chart come like that. And after I make this, then I make the vertical satellite view, and that's those 2 pages all put together on one 17-inch long board. Here's your entire piece. And after I make this, I make what's my favorite part, and what I've heard is yours as well, the color structural analysis. And this is really the thing that I live for. These light me up so much to make these. I learned so much in the process of making one of these. And you could see that I have colors. A whole opening pink box section, which is our opening material for the theme. Then our development section in the blue box. Recapitulation back in the pink box with some new elements. And finally the Coda, the spectacular tour de force for the ending in the yellow box. And we'll come back to that. The form of the piece is A, B, A, Coda, laid out easily and simply for you to understand. And you could get all of these supplies from my website as digital downloads, sallychristianmusic.com. You just take your PDFs to a print shop and have them printed on nice heavy 60-pound cardstock, and you will love working on them. They're firm, they stand up on the music rack, and they'll last a lifetime. So now I'm going to actually just play through the whole pink box opening material again so that you can listen to the sounds I'm getting and you can watch my touch and the breathing and the third beats and the lingering on the third beats. And I breathe before I start. This starts on the rest, 1 and 2 and 3 and. So I take a little breath and I raise my hand on the and. 1, 2, 3. The left hand. We have another falling interval on the third beat, but ascent. Rachmaninoff is going to climb his way up the keyboard, and he's going to use different kinds of phrasings. The first two make a larger unit. And then he goes up to the B flat. So that was the same, just up higher. Now he shortens everything. That's quite extraordinary. But then when we get the right hand, which is all coming 1/8 note later, this is what that sounds like. 1 and 2 and 3 and 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 1 and 2. Together. First the little phrase, it starts piano, but he has marked poco a poco crescendo e accelerando. So he wants this to drive. Now this becomes pretty turbulent in the piece. And towards the end of this section, it turns into a stretto when we go from the phrases all in the 3-1 3-1 3-1 3-1 3-1 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3. I'm going to call that out when I play with the hands together. But it's tricky because they're offset. The left hand has its 1 2 1 2. But the right hand is just one beat later. So if you put those together, you have that's a very turbulent part in the piece. And it's the only time in the piece when we have left this tranquil reverence of the prayer-like mood that I hear in the piece. And what does that remind you of? Well, for me, it reminds me of life. We have these times in our life when things get so turbulent and everything is sort of off balance, and this one's fighting and this one's fighting, but it does eventually come together in this wonderful arrival point on the beat, and with harmonious closing chords. Starting here. Listen to the two parts talking to each other. Show you in my music that helped me tremendously. It took me a long time to learn and memorize this piece. This is not intuitive. Everything in here is counterintuitive, and it's a little bit awkward. But notice in here that I put for myself these orange brackets, 1 2 3 4. Now I'm going to play those because I had to identify in the right hand. I had a 5th. This is 19. Looking at my measures, 20, 21, 22. And then it goes up a half step, still a 5th. And then a 5th. And a 6th. And with that left hand was this. That's a B flat minor. And then this. Going to the major and going to. I thought that was the most beautiful progression. So I listened for that. Now let's play it in context, and I'm going to linger on those. This helped me so much because that is what precedes the going into the duples. Da 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 da. And then to hear that progression harmonically, how it evolves from chord to chord. You want to relish those. You want to know those are in there. That asks the question to me. Beautiful inversions. And now our second page begins the recapitulation. Now this is very beautiful. We have the melody of the opening once again in the bass, just like it started the piece. The D flat happens to come from the previous measure 34, and it has these notes after, but then it falls to that we know. Those soprano notes that we had also that were imitating the tenor now turn into a counter melody with the melody. So this is going to sound like this. I'm just going to play these two simple parts, the melody notes of the left hand and the counter melody of the right hand. That's the first 4 measure phrase. The next phrase. And it goes on to here. So he's really changed at this point in the piece, and ending on this very tender A flat minor, which is the 2nd scale degree, called the supertonic. But this is the part that excited me so much. What comes in between the soprano counter melody and the theme melody of the left hand is left hand bass is a tenor counter melody ascending, and the other part of the right hand has the pulsing chords, except this time they're just thirds. And guess what happens when you put those together? You have a reference to the introductory two measures. Listen to this. Doesn't that sound just like the beginning measure? Because that's the reference. Now, see if you can hear that. G flat and to the E flat right hand, rest, and the final cadence before our coda. And that's a 5/7. And resolves to here, but not like that. He's not going to give it so complete, the finality like that. He's going to give it like this. In the left hand are triplets, like this. Right hand does, it has two parts. And what did the right hand start with? Exactly our introductory material. Below that, the right hand, the alto had, and you put those together, now let's put this all together. This is measure 47. And I want to show you that descant that I was talking about in the introduction. That's way up here. And I'm going to show you my music. This also completely amazed me that Rachmaninoff can weave this in. Our opening notes in reverse. He's coming down as an inversion with this G flat here. It's actually this one, and the F, the E flat, and the D flat. And I have those marked on your satellite, your color structural analysis. I marked those specifically as the descant sequential theme in the highest registers, the G flat, the F, the E flat, and the D flat. And then it repeats down the octave with those same four notes. But it's embellished. Not only do we give that element of the pulsing chord first line in measure 1, but he's giving us the other element of the falling interval of the theme, which is ingenious. 3, 1, 2. Always the third beat. 3, 1, 2. Now this is a little catchy. 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Little interest there. And the repetition. 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now he changes it here with that A natural instead of. These are the little details when you learn this piece. Okay, so this is very difficult in here. There's so much to decipher and take apart. Before I put all the parts together, I'm going to take the left hand alone. Now this is on a pedal point on our tonic G flat. And we start here in measure 47, and then in measure 49, measure 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, and 55. The same G flat pitch. So it's anchoring us and rooting us. It's holding everything together as this giant entity of all these parts slowly move down the keyboard in the sequence. We are grounded by that constant G flat on the downbeat of the left hand. That does something to you also. It keeps pulling you back. You're going off, but you're back. Left hand alone. Secondary melody there. Another one. This is it's typical of Rachmaninoff. And then these are big reaches. More. And the end of the first 4 measures. Now third beat, this is the repetition down the octave. Now on the and. And on the and now in duples. That kind of slow practice is essential. I don't know how to put the hands together now. Slowly. And I'm going to linger on these third beats. We're very fortunate to have a recording of Rachmaninoff, who recorded this piece in 1940. A lot of things are different with his version from 40 years after he wrote the piece. A lot of tempo fluctuations. And rolled chords. He adds a lot of romantic style rubato and rolled chords, but he's always lingering on the third beat and stretching it. That, like I said, that is the essence of the piece. So let's hear those. really beautiful in this, the right hand. I'm going to take the last 4 measures again. In the inner voice of the right hand, and rich rolled chords, augmented chord. And now we come to the very close of the piece, which is the falling intervals now ascend, and on the third beats they make the pitches G flat, B flat, D flat. So he's outlining the G flat major triad on every third beat that falls. 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. And the right hand here has a series of inversions all on the G flat major chord. He starts off with the pulsing chords. To fifths, and we put that together. That starts mezzo forte, left hand. Rest, and these now that last 5/1 ending is interesting. You have a choice. I do compare editions with a public domain and existing editions. This was one of those cases, the ending dynamic marking on these last 2 chords, that I had a choice to make, because some of the editions, the first Gautil edition out of Moscow had a forte, and the second edition that collaborated with Leipzig also had a forte, but the autograph, the engraver's copy, had the forte corrected to a piano, possibly after it was published. And I was so glad when I found all of that. I do a lot of research when I make these engravings, and I couldn't emotionally, musically, put a forte 5/1 ending on this. It just was so out of character. I couldn't make any sense of it musically, but when I did it piano, quietly, and continuing the quiet, reverent, almost concluding amen that I feel when I play this as piano, it made so much sense to me. But it's your choice. Mine shows the piano. Some editions you will find will show forte there. I'll play it one more time. See, I'm even pulling on these. These I stroke. Rest. And now with the arms, I push everything in. That was lovely. And this one, really nice. You can't really see my hand from here, but I'm playing at this knuckle on the bottom, the flat. I'm playing right there. I strike the key here. And that is so maybe counterintuitive if you think we only play with our tips. We don't. With the thumbs, we often play. Oh, I was going to say one other thing is speaking of where we play and fingerings on these rolled chords. This one. I play with the double thumb on the white keys. And then you can reach it. I didn't demonstrate that, did I? That's important let me do that one more time with just the right hand alone, because this is the part that I said in the introduction where it's challenging. This is very challenging to have this all fluid and effortless, almost like waves slowly falling and cascading. Everything's fluid. Bringing out that descant. Let's do that again right here. Those rolled chords. Now the repetition, G flat. Another double thumb. Don't you agree that those are gorgeous rolled chords? That moment, when you get to that point in the piece, once you've put the years, certainly months of work to learn this piece, and you get to that point and you can close your eyes and play those rolled chords effortlessly and luxuriate in them. It is one of the most sublime feelings. I think that is the word I would use for this section, is sublime. And I think it's interesting too, this was one of the preludes that Rachmaninoff obviously really loved. Of his 24 preludes, he was still playing this at the very end of his life and loving it, loving the chords. There's a lot of love in this piece. There's warmth and all of those intervals of the falling. You want to sing it and put your whole heart into it. So I think that concludes the lesson, and I highly encourage you to take a look at this piece. It's one of the shorter preludes. It's so refreshing to have something that's not so technical. All of these Opus 23 preludes, I've been doing a series of lessons on them, and they're highly virtuosic on the whole. The earlier works, Rachmaninoff was very steeped in his virtuosity, and then to have this quiet piece to end the cycle, I thought was very telling. And it also heralded the way for him with his next opus, the 32 preludes, the 13 preludes. And the last prelude in D flat major, number 13, opus 32, has an identical descant of the pitches that we had on this one. So he got the idea from this one and then employed it later in a more expanded version. I'm not going to play that today, but you will hear that at the very end of the closing page on that piece, the reference that he first dreamed on this piece. So I hope this has been helpful, and I wish you all the best playing this beautiful prelude in G flat major. Thank you.